fired missiles at a $20 billion. Iran just fired missiles at a $20 billion U.S. aircraft carrier. Read that again. Not a patrol boat, not a supply ship. A full American aircraft carrier carrying 5,000 U.S. soldiers, 60 to 70 aircraft, and enough firepower to level a small country just got targeted by Iranian missiles in open water. And the carrier didn't fight back, it ran. A United States Navy aircraft carrier, the single most powerful symbol of American military dominance on Earth, turned around and fled the scene after Iran launched on it from 340 kilometers away. Let that image sit in your brain for a second. Because what just happened isn't just a military event, it's a psychological earthquake. It's the moment the entire world, every ally, every enemy, every neutral country sitting on the fence, watched America blink. And here's the part that should terrify every single person watching this. Iran didn't even use its best weapon. Military analysts reviewing the strike pattern are saying Iran fired a warning shot, a calibrated, deliberate hold-back shot, specifically designed to scare the carrier away without sinking it. Iran was essentially saying, we could have ended this entire fleet. We chose not to. Today. Because here's what Iran actually has sitting in its arsenal right now. Hypersonic missiles. Weapons that travel at over 6,000 kilometers per hour. Weapons that no existing naval defense system on Earth, including everything on that carrier, can reliably intercept. One hypersonic missile hitting that ship doesn't damage it. It sinks it. 5,000 American soldiers go into the water. And Donald Trump, sitting in the White House, now has to make the most dangerous decision any American president has faced since the Cuban Missile Crisis. That scenario hasn't happened yet. But Iran just proved it can happen. Anytime it chooses. This is what a real power shift looks like. Not an announcement, not a press conference. A $20 billion warship running at full speed away from a country that the United States has been sanctioning, threatening, and bombing for over 40 years. Now let's talk about what this moment actually means. Because the mainstream coverage is already trying to minimize it, spin it, and bury it under talking points. And the real story is so much bigger than what's making headlines. First, understand the geography of what just happened. This carrier wasn't on a peacetime patrol. It was positioned, loaded, and moving toward the Gulf with one purpose: to project threat against Iran. It had destroyer escorts. It had air cover. It represented the full weight of American naval power in the region, and Iran tagged it from 340 kilometers away and told it to leave. The message to every country watching wasn't subtle. It was, American power projection in this region is no longer safe. Second, understand the technology gap that just got exposed publicly for the first time. America's missile defense systems were built for a different era. The interceptors cost between $1 million and $3 million each. Iran's attack drones cost as little as $20,000 to produce. Iran has thousands of them. Do that math. America is spending hundreds of millions of dollars to intercept weapons that cost pocket change to manufacture. It's an economic war of attrition that the United States literally cannot afford to win. And Iran knows this. Iran has been engineering specifically for this asymmetry for years. Third, and this is the piece that Wall Street is quietly melting down over right now, the oil market just entered completely uncharted territory. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just important. It is the single most critical choke point in the entire global energy system. Roughly 20 million barrels of oil pass through it every single day. Saudi Arabia's exports go through it. UAE's exports go through it. Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar. Everything goes through that narrow strip of water. And right now, Iran has demonstrated that it can hit American naval assets protecting that strait from over 300 kilometers away. Insurance companies are already repricing risk for every tanker in the region. Some are refusing coverage entirely. Captains are anchoring outside the strait and waiting. And the global oil market, which was already tense, is now pricing in something it has never had to price before: the genuine possibility that America cannot protect the world's oil supply. That's not a talking point. That's what the futures market is saying with real money, right now, today. And here's the thing nobody is telling you about what happens next. Because what Iran does in the next 72 hours isn't the real danger. The real danger is what Israel is pushing America to do. There's a nuclear option on the table right now, not a metaphor, not a figure of speech. An actual documented military contingency plan, and it has a name: the Samson option. Israel's most extreme strategic doctrine states this clearly. If Israel faces an existential threat, it cannot survive conventionally. It reserves the right to use nuclear weapons, not just to defend itself, but to ensure that anyone destroying Israel gets destroyed with it. Mutual annihilation is a last resort. Take everyone down on the way out. Israel currently has an estimated 90 nuclear warheads. Nobody officially confirms this number because Israel maintains a policy of nuclear ambiguity. They never confirm, never deny. But intelligence agencies across the world treat it as established fact. And right now, Israeli officials are pressuring Washington to consider strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. not conventional strikes. The conversation in closed-door briefings is about whether America would authorize or support something far more catastrophic if conventional warfare fails to stop Iran. This is not fringe speculation. This was reported before this latest escalation. And after Iran just chased a U.S. carrier out of the Gulf, the pressure on Washington just intensified dramatically. Think about what that pressure looks like from Trump's position. He already told the world he would decide who Iran's next supreme leader is. He said it publicly, on the record, with zero diplomatic framing, as if regime change in a country of 90 million people is a scheduling decision he makes between golf and dinner. The Iranian response to that statement wasn't outrage. It was a missile at an aircraft carrier, because Iran understood exactly what that statement meant. It meant America is no longer pretending this is about regional stability or nuclear compliance. It's about regime elimination. And when a country believes its government is the target, not just its military, restraint disappears. That's the psychological tripwire that just got stepped on. Now let's talk about the human cost of this conflict. Because behind every geopolitical number is a person whose life just collapsed. There are millions of Pakistani workers in the Gulf right now, millions of Indians, Bangladeshis, Filipinos, Africans, regular working people who went to the Gulf because their home economies couldn't provide what they needed. They work construction, hospitality, logistics, domestic work. They send money home every month. Entire families back home depend on that wire transfer arriving on the first of the month. Dubai was never supposed to be a war zone. Abu Dhabi was never supposed to have air raid anxiety. Doha, the city that hosted the World Cup 2 years ago, the city of luxury malls and gleaming towers, is now a city where people are watching the sky. Nobody who went to work in the Gulf signed up for this. Nobody got a risk briefing that said, by the way, there's a possibility American military bases near your job site might become missile targets. These are ordinary people trapped in an extraordinary catastrophe that was manufactured entirely by decisions made in Washington and Tel Aviv. And the people making those decisions, they're not in the Gulf. They're not in the shelters. They're not getting the 2 a.m. emergency alert on their phone. Now here's the geopolitical layer that explains why this war is almost impossible to stop through normal diplomacy. Trump's approval rating in America is currently at an all-time low. Somewhere between 85 and 90% of the American public, across party lines, is unhappy with his handling of this conflict. Billionaires who funded his campaign are writing open letters asking who gave him the right to drag the world into this. The domestic political pressure to de-escalate is real and growing. But here's Trump's problem. De-escalating means admitting the strategy failed. It means acknowledging that Iran, the country America has sanctioned into poverty for decades, just forced a U.S. carrier to retreat. It means accepting that $20 billion in naval hardware and 5,000 of America's finest couldn't hold their position against Iranian missiles. That's not a story any American president can easily tell, especially not this one. So instead of de-escalating, the instinct is to escalate further,